Hey everyone, and welcome to my last live of 2023. This year has gone very, very quickly. So thank you for joining me tonight. I want to thank everyone that supported my channel, that has attended my live, my Facebook group, the entire Confidently Closed community. Thank you so much for even people that help answer questions in the lives or in the comments. I appreciate all of that. And we're going to do it even bigger and better in 2024. So tonight's live is all about buying a house in 2024 and getting you prepared to do that. So I want to answer any questions. I'm going to prioritize anybody that's thinking about buying in 2024. If you don't know me, I'm Shahida Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership so you can confidently buy your first home. And I did something a little bit differently tonight. Hey, Sharna and Beverly, thank you for joining me. I'm going to have the moderator actually choose the questions for me, because sometimes when I am scrolling through the questions, I miss some of you. So she's going to pick those questions. So thank you guys for joining me early. Go ahead and put your questions in, and she'll be sorting through those. So hopefully give us a little bit of wiggle room tonight. I'm hoping that it works well. All right, so thank you all for coming out. Kevin's in the comments, so y'all can get your lender questions answered on the side over there, because Kevin's in the comments. Hey, Kevin. All right, so I'm going to see how this works. Hopefully it works well. Also, I wanted to tell you that Mortgage News Daily, that's what I'm using for this. They say conventional mortgage rates, these are 30-year rates. These are the rates today, are at 6.66%. Don't, I was like, oh, 666, should I put that on there? But that's what they had for the average conventional rate today. And then they had FHA at 6.12. Usually FHA rates are going to be a little bit lower than conventional rates. So just know that. Still quote both of them because there's fees and that sort of thing on both sides, but quote both of them. There are pros and cons to conventional versus FHA. You also want to be, I'm going to be very, very clear about this. FHA rates are not the same with every lender. Conventional rates are not the same with every lender. And some lenders are saying, I can get you, I'll explain that a little bit later, but they're saying I can get you any rate you want. Just make sure you're still getting 3 quotes. You're getting 3 quotes, 3 different lenders, okay? That's like a confidently closed rule that you need. I need to write like all my basic rules. I need to have a book or something, but that's one of the big ones that you go and quote with 3 different lenders. So let's see who's here. I see Norma from San Diego. I'm going to put some of you up here. Hey, Norma from San Diego. Hopefully this is helpful because I'm doing it later. I usually go live at 6 o'clock. I'm going at 7 o'clock. Hopefully it helps some people with the, with the time, especially on the West Coast. Orlando's here. Hey, Orlando. I think a lot of y'all follow Orlando as well. Thank you for joining me. Even Kevin said, hey, Orlando. And I do my special Black History Month lives, or I do more lives in February for Black History Month. So hopefully we can get some of these other YouTube celebrities on my channel. All right, thank you guys. We have Houston, South Carolina. We got so many people in here. So good to see everybody, okay? Lavender says, I plan to buy in 2024, and Kevin is on my list of lenders to contact. So that is very, very good. All right, so go ahead and put your questions in. Went over mortgage rates. We have 90 people on the chat. Please like and subscribe. So 2024, my latest video is all about my 10 tips specifically for 2024. So watch that if you haven't already. But I want to point out a few things. So going into 2024, you need to understand what rate locking means. So you understand what a rate lock is. As a first-time home buyer, when you are first initially pre-approved, they, sorry, I think it's not working out right now. When you're initially pre-approved, and I will answer your question, give me a second. When you're initially pre-approved, whatever's on the rate that they quote you initially is not your rate yet, okay, until you lock it. And there's a lock procedure. And so say that when you did your pre-approval, rates were at 6.5%, right? But then you go shopping for a house and it takes you 45 days to find the house that you want. And now rates are at 6%, okay? So you're like, okay, should I lock my rate? But it's going to take me 30 days to close. What if rates are at 5.5% in the next 30 days, right? So that would be like floating down your rate. So if you lock it and you lock it at 6% with your lender, and close to closing, those rates are at 5.5%. Of course, you're going to want that lower rate at 5.5%, right? So you try to get it, but you didn't have that conversation. So it's either going to be a fee, right, for locking your rate, or some lenders I've seen, I'm going by my experience, have done it for free. And this is why. And they may be eating some of that cost on the back end. But in my experience, if that buyer has time to switch lenders, right? And it's easier if you already did those 3 quotes to switch lenders, because you have, they already have some of your information. If lender number 1 doesn't want to give you that rate without like you paying money for it, then you go to lender number 2 and just get your mortgage through them. The only caveat, the buyer beware part of this, is lender number 2 needs to be able to close you on time, because you're under contract to buy a house at a certain time and a close on that house at a certain time. So if you switch lenders and that other lender takes, 30 days to close you, then you may be in default of that contract. So I want you up front to talk to lenders and say, what happens if rates go? Because rates may be moving quickly down, right? So you'll have some time, and you need to have those conversations up front. And you need to know that you have the right to switch lenders. And I'm not saying, let me say that like 5 times, for Kevin is like probably going crazy in the comments. You don't want to switch if you do not have to, but no lender can say, well, you have to stay with me, right? But the consequence is, and the lenders know this, the consequence is, what if that other lender can't close you on time? And are they actually giving you a lower rate, or is it just more fees that they're putting on? But if you are having those conversations with all of your lenders up front, you have all the loan estimates that I want you to get, you'll be able to, communicate with them very knowledgeably, right? So go ahead and keep on putting your questions in. I want you to plan on staying in this house for 7 years or more. Be on the safe side. 7 years, you make sure that you'll more than break even typically, if you ever had to sell that house, because you need to have some time for some equity to grow, either through payments or the home going up in value, that sort of thing. Buy below your means. In 2023, I had a viewer tell me that her taxes, a combination of taxes and insurance, made her mortgage go up $300. She couldn't afford the house anymore. So that means, to me, that says $300 is significant. But if I was below my means, that wouldn't cause me to have to sell my house. So you want to make sure that you understand how all of that works. I made videos on that. And lastly, how are you going to pay your agent? Okay. Because I had another, and then I'm going to start taking your questions. I had another buyer say another buyer say that she was doing new construction. She hired the agent, the new construction builder, because typically the builder or the listing agent will share their commission with your agent. So you don't have to pay out of pocket, your buyer's agent. But she was doing new construction. The builder was offering $3,000 to the agent. The agent felt like they should get more than that. They wanted, 3% of the house price, which was, say it was $10,000, right? And she asked the buyer's agent to pay her the difference. She wanted an additional, $7,000. Those are not the conversations you have with your agent after the fact. I told her, my answer to her was, don't pay the difference. You should have discussed that up front. Unless you signed and said you were going to pay this person that amount, just because the builder didn't pay them doesn't mean you have to pay them. All of those things should be negotiated up front with your buyer's agent, who's going to be paying them. And all of this, of course, is in my masterclass and Confidently Close handbook. So you need to make sure you get that. So like I said, you guys, I'm going to I think she already had a question up here. I'm going to let her pick the questions for me, and I'm going to answer them. So moderator, if you don't mind, go ahead and put up that first question. I'm going to take that off. I think you already had one for me. Okay. Sharna. Hi, Sharna. Are there still loan products for nurses or public service providers? Typically, yes, depending on what state you're in. And I've done several videos where I've listed in the description I have a playlist, the down payment assistance playlist. In my down payment assistance playlist, in the the description of those videos, I pretty much have every state, and then I have the state programs that you have. So there are not a lot of national programs that are not referral-based kind of programs. They're not really down payment assistance for nurses in public service, but in your state, they typically have programs specific to like teachers, nurses, that sort of thing. So the first thing you want to do is find out in your state. I have those links in my videos. So say that you're in Arizona, click on Arizona. They'll have all the down payment assistance programs in your state. So the answer is yes, but they're mostly on a state level. So you need to find those in your state. All right. Thank you, Sharna. You can put up the next question. I do want to say that down payment assistance, the first thing you need to do, there are national programs, there are bank programs, there are a lot of programs, but you want to make sure that you go to your state programs first and see what they're offering in your local state. And sometimes even in your city, if you live in a large city, then they typically have programs just for the residents that live there. And then you'll see like Bank of America might have a program, Chase might have a program, but start with your city and state programs first. Do you have someone in the Seattle, Washington area? Again, in all of my videos, I have links to referrals if you need a referral. So go ahead and click on those links and I will refer somebody to you. Thank you, Katrina, for that question. All right, go ahead and make sure you're putting your questions in the comments so we can go ahead and answer those. Steppy, hey Steppy, what do you think about those of us on Social Security disability? Are you familiar with USDA loans? Hey, yes, and welcome to my channel. I do have 3 videos on USDA loans. One of them I interviewed one of the heads of USDA, so you definitely want to watch that. I think USDA, and for everybody that doesn't know what USDA is for rural areas. And 97% of America is actually rural. And it's not where the most of the population is, it's where most of the land in the United States is. So there's a program to incentivize people to move to USDA areas or more rural areas where they will 100% finance your mortgage. So there's no down payment. There's still closing costs with these loans, but there's no down payment. So, and if you can get the seller to cover your down payment, you'll probably have to pay nothing or very little out of your pocket. So I am familiar with those. I advise you to watch my videos. Go under the mortgage options playlist. You'll find those USDA loan videos. And those of you on Social Security disability, if that's your only income, it is a little bit more difficult unless you're in a very affordable area. But there is a program called USDA Direct, and they will pay or they'll subsidize a portion of your mortgage payment. So, and I have a video on that as well. So that's what I would recommend. If you have a limited income, that you look into USDA Direct. All right. Thank you, Steppy, for that question. Thank you for joining me. I want everybody to have a happy holiday. If you're just joining me, this is my last live for 2023. I have one more video coming out, I think next week, but then that's it until the new year. Elizabeth, thank you for joining me. When you have multiple credit errors, like a paid off car of $16,000 errors, so if you have errors on your credit report, you just want to dispute those errors. It's pretty easy to dispute an error. They have how you dispute them online. It's suggested that you dispute them in writing, but there is an online dispute form. You can do that, but most credit repair people will tell you go ahead and do it in writing. And then have all of your evidence. So if you have a paid off car loan, I'm sure you have a receipt or something like that, an invoice with your zero balance, then you would dispute it. You say what you're disputing, you send it to that to the credit reporting agency with your proof, and then they have 30 days to respond to you. So that's what I would recommend, that if you have credit errors, you're going to have to go ahead and dispute those credit errors. There is a procedure in place because of errors. Most people do have errors on their credit report, and I would follow that that guide to dispute your errors. If you just Google how to dispute a credit error, you'll see things come up about it, but definitely do it in writing. Mail it like a certified mail so you know exactly when they got it. If they do not respond, either they take it off or they fix the error, or they respond to you, but they have 30 days. If they don't respond within 30 days, they automatically have to take it off. Good question, Elizabeth. Thank you for that question from South Carolina. All right, so what else was I saying until we get our next question up? Go ahead and put your questions in the chat. We're here till 8 p.m. All right, so lovely Lisa. Hi, lovely Lisa. Cute picture. Student loan forgiveness. Should I focus on getting them forgiven? I'm a 56-year-old. That picture don't look 56. First-time home buyer. My student loans are humongous. All right, it depends on how you are planning on getting them forgiven. So I know I've had, and I think I've shared it on this channel, I was a teacher for 14 years. My student loans were forgiven fully from the public loan forgiveness. So I taught for more than 10 years. They have public loan forgiveness. All of my student loans were forgiven. All of my husband's a teacher. All of his student loans were forgiven. My sister worked for the state for over 10 years. All of her student loans were forgiven. So I know firsthand, because I've experienced them personally, that student loans are actually forgiven. My question to you would be, Lisa, what program are you in that's going to forgive your student loans? Public loan forgiveness is the most, I would say, has the most proof, right, of people actually having their student loans forgiven, especially now that they've modified the program. So if you know you're in something that has an end date, like I knew as long as I worked for 10 years, made 120 payments on time, that all of the rest of my balance would be forgiven, right? So if you're in something like that that has an end date, then you know, I would go ahead and get them forgiven, because what I did was I said, okay, what are the payments that I have to make? What do I owe? Is it worth me just paying them off, or going through the student loan forgiveness? And it was worth just going through the student loan forgiveness. Okay. So do that math. You can still buy a house with student loans though. So I wouldn't let that stop you, because the thing is, that's in my opinion, a lot of people that waited to buy a house, now houses are so much more expensive, right? So you're renting all of this time. Maybe you took out your last student loan when you were 40, and home prices in the last 16 years might be double. I don't know the exact numbers, but say they're double, then it's taking home ownership farther and farther away from you. So I would, you can do both things. I don't know what humongous is, but if they're going to be forgiven through a specific program and you're sure of it, then I would, act accordingly. But there's a lot of people that, especially if you're paying rent, and I have a rent calculator, rent versus owning calculator, use that and kind of do the math. Does it make sense for you to buy a house? And because everybody, I think in their mind thinks, okay, I'm paying this for rent, my house is going to be so much more expensive. You can get an affordable house. That's something that you could, stabilize your income, stabilize your payments, because as rent goes up every time, you're not able to stabilize your expenses. And I don't know how close you are to retirement. You might have 10 years or more, but I've done a video on buying in retirement and why it makes sense for a lot of people. So that's hopefully that helps you a little bit. Thank you, lovely Lisa. All right, while she's pulling up the next question, I wanted to say that I have my first time homebuyer group. So I need to join. If you have some New Year's resolutions, this we need to do for the new year, make sure you're a part of my first time homebuyer group. Make sure you get my masterclass and confidently close handbook. Do not buy a house in 2024 without my guide. It has everything you need. It's not even a guide. Let me stop calling it a guide, because most buyer guides are trash. I have videos for every part of the home buying process. I have explainer videos. I explain contracts, buyer's brokerage agreements. I have samples. I have everything you need to be a confident home buyer. So that link is starred at the top. Take a look at it. So 2 resolutions: join my Facebook group, get my masterclass for 2024. Michelle, since prices are so high in Los Angeles, should I consider investing out of state, or should I don't know what the rest of your question was, but a lot of times if you are in a high cost state and you're not moving, let's say that, because I advise a lot of people to move out of that high cost state. But if you live in a high cost state and you're not moving, but you still want to take advantage of owning your own property or owning something, yes, I do advise that you invest out of state. There are some risks, however, to investing out of state because you're not there. You may not be as familiar with what's happening in that market, that sort of thing. So you should spend some time, building a team, real estate agents, appraisers, contractors, all of those things, rental management or management companies to manage your property. You want to make sure you're spending some time building a team, you're flying out, you're visiting, you're doing all of those things, so you make sure that your investment is well taken care of. But yeah, I do recommend, if you do want to take advantage of real estate investing and you live in a very expensive area, there's not a problem with buying a house or buying an investment property outside of state. So you're not going to be living in there. Just know that typically the down payment is higher, right? Because if you're borrowing that money, it's going to be 20% or so, because you're not going to own or occupy that property. But I do recommend it. And I think a lot of people are doing that because you may have the money, the income to buy, but you don't have the income to buy where you currently live. So buying an affordable place as close to you as possible. So if you do have to travel to that place, it's not so expensive to get there. Thank you so much. All right, so we have your resolutions. Thank you, Michelle, for that question. And thank you guys for joining me. I see a lot of people in the comments, which is great. We're at 171 people, so I'm sure I have 171 likes. So thank you so much. Softer side, thank you. I will most definitely buying your handbook. Yes, please get it. And then I'm going to have activities for those of you, not activities, but events like webinars, that sort of thing for people in 2024 that are part of that masterclass. So I'm excited about 2024 because honestly, I feel like, and I said it in my last few videos, home buying is going to pick up. As soon if the FHA rate, and I said it was at 6.12 today, if it drops into the fives, people, it's already like I had a listing, and as soon as rates went to 6.5, they, more people were looking at it because lenders know kind of at what people that were pre-approved, lenders are looking and they know the people that can afford as rates go down, and those lenders are calling back their past, clients or anybody that's done an application like, okay, it's time. So especially if they hit in the fives, a lot of people are going to get back out into the market. So thank you, Softer Side. I appreciate that. And if you go to the page, when you click on the masterclass, like sales page, it'll have the testimonials and all of that and tells you exactly what's in there in that. Thank you so much. All right. So we have our resolutions. I'm trying to think what else we had to talk about tonight while we're waiting on our next question. Get your questions answered before 2024. This is my last live before 2024. Hopefully that you have you've budgeted, right? You're not just spending crazy because, you don't want to mess up your debt to income ratio buying a lot of gifts for a lot of people and you can't afford to buy your house in the new year. Navigating mortgages with Africa Cook. Hey, Africa Cook. I love that name. Thank you so much, Africa. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. All right. So what was I saying? I was saying, don't mess up your debt to income ratio by buying a lot of gifts and things like that on credit, because when it's time for you to buy a house, that will impact you. All right, Shrink Barnes, hello. If I want to use some of my 401k as a down payment, how early should I withdraw it before my purchase to use it as a down payment? Good question. So when I don't think there's a certain amount of time. You want to talk to your 401k administrator, right, to find out how quickly you can access the money after you ask for it. And there are some penalties for taking early withdrawals. Some of them may have a, less of a penalty if you're doing it for a home purchase. Just double check all of that. But so say it'll take you 7 days once you fill out the paperwork to get it. You want to talk to your lender, because your lender, as long as the money comes from you, so your lender is not really worried about large deposits if the money is coming from you. So if say you take $10,000 out of your 401k and you deposit it into your checking account, the lender is going to ask, well, where'd that $10,000 come from? But you're going to have your 401k withdrawal, all of your paperwork. Oh, it came from my 401k, right? But it becomes a problem if there's just $10,000 and they're asking you, where'd you get this money from? And you can't say, well, I got it, my mom gave it to me, unless they're going to be gifting you that money, right? So they're going to track where your money is coming from, and down payments, they want it to be coming from you or somebody close to you that's giving you the money as a gift. So to answer your question, I would say go ahead and see how long. There's not a certain amount of time, as long as you have it for closing, but check with your 401k administrator, how quickly can you get the money? And then check with your lender to ask them, what paperwork do you need to show as to where you were getting the money from. It's all pretty simple. So there's not a set amount of time for you to do it. But one person did ask me, how early should you contact the lender? So say you're buying in 2024 and and you go ahead and put up the next question while I'm explaining this. Here's my answer for that. If you don't know exactly when you want to buy in 2024, go ahead and do a pre-approval now. Like do a pre-approval, like for your New Year's resolution. If you're not sure, what you're going to be approved for, if you're not sure if you need to fix something on your credit, Kevin and I, the lender I was telling you about, we did a video all about pre-approval. It's very specific. It's under the live tab. It says, don't wait, basically, to get pre-approved. So watch that video, but go ahead and get pre-approved to see where you stand, right? And then I would say make sure you are approved 3 to 4 months before you plan on closing and living in that house, because it may take you that long just to find a house. So you have to be prepared with that pre-approval to go ahead and put an offer on something as soon as you find it. And I also want to say, if you're renting and you're in a lease, it may make sense for you to terminate that lease early, pay the penalty, and move into the house. Because if you're just waiting, say your lease is up in September of 2024, and you're like, I'm not going to buy until my lease is up, then I'm going to move right into the house. What if the house that you really want comes on the market in April? Does that mean you ignore that and don't buy that house? So you want to make sure you have all of your information in front of you, and to know, because sometimes it does make sense to go ahead and buy that house. It may be a really good deal in April, but you're waiting until September, to move, and there's less homes on the market. So I'd advise a lot of people during the pandemic, go ahead and break your lease. And a lot of times it was a 2-month penalty. So let's talk about this really quickly. So, and during the pandemic, they were going to lose out like on a 3% interest rate too. So that's not something else. But for the most part, when you buy a house, if you buy a house in April, your first mortgage payment is not due until June. So you'll skip 1 month. So April you close, May you skip, you don't make a payment, and then June is your first mortgage payment. So you're not going to have to pay rent and your mortgage at the same time. They'll only do like one overlap. So say your rent is $2,000. Basically, you're out about $2,000 if you were to close, if you were to terminate your lease. So that's something you can factor in. Maybe you ask, when you're doing your closing costs, you're like, telling your agent, make sure I get an extra $2,000 to have to pay this. But I want you to be open, because the more you set yourself up into, I have to buy a house, but I only could buy it between this month and this month, you may be missing other opportunities that may come up during the year. So know what the penalties are for breaking your lease. All right, Katrina, thank you for this question. Single mom, only one income. I think we went back on that. Let's put Katrina's question back up, because I didn't get to that question. Or maybe after this question. Will you do a video on modular homes and land using the USDA loan? Probably not. I don't focus really on manufactured homes. Here's the thing. When you buy land, so you're buying a land, you could buy land, USDA, that sort of thing. The home needs to be affixed to the land. In order for you to get a mortgage on that property, you're going to have to attach that home to the property. So it becomes a lot like buying any house. You're just doing it in a rural area. But in order for you to, because when you're buying a mobile home, manufactured home, that moves, you can move it from one property to the next property to another property, then it's more of a title, like a car title in most states. It's not considered real estate. So the way you finance that would be different from the way you finance a home that's going to have a foundation and cannot be moved, where that home is, you have that address doesn't change, because that's how they would set the taxes. When people are doing mortgages, right? Um, the house is collateral for the loan. And so if they have to foreclose on you or anything like that, they pretty much know where that house is. And they know that they can foreclose it. They can send the sheriff out to that house. But if you have a mobile home, it's like a car and trying to repo it, where somebody could take that house and move it somewhere else and that sort of thing. So I do have what I told the other viewer that had the question. She was saying about USDA loans. I have several videos on USDA loans, and we touch on in the longer video for USDA, we do touch on buying a mobile home and putting it on your land. So, watch those videos. It's under my playlist. The playlist is mortgage options. I have at least 3 USDA videos. And I also have a video about buying a house or building a house on your own land. So if you put both of those things together, you may be able to get what you need. All right, Katrina, back to you. I'm a single mom, only one income, saved enough for a 3.5% down payment. So that's an FHA loan. There's also, let me read the whole question and then I'll give you some advice. Saved enough for 3.5%, but with high prices, I'm only seeing 3 bedrooms for my price, but need a 4th bedroom. Would it be better to go through a down payment assistance program? Okay, so there's a lot of things to unpack in this question. All right, one is you have 3.5%, which is good, right? So you would still need money for closing costs in most instances. If you can't get a seller to provide some of those closing costs for you or contribute some of those closing costs. So you would still need a down payment assistance program to cover the other costs that come with buying a house. So I typically tell people to save 7%. So if you were buying a $100,000 house, then if you save 7%, you'll be able to do a FHA loan, and then you'll have the money that you need for your closing costs, about that amount, right? So if you cannot save the 7%, then you would have to do some kind of down payment assistance program. So you should start with the programs in your state that are available to you, right? So start there, see if there are any programs that every state has a down payment assistance program. And a lot of them would probably cover about 3%. They usually have either a set amount or a percentage, and that can help you cover the rest. The seller can also help you cover some of it, but you're going to have that conversation with your agent to say, hey, whatever house I buy, I need the seller to help me contribute. And that might limit your options because not every seller is going to contribute. But those are the kinds of things you need to be thinking about with your agent ahead of time. So a combination of down payment assistance, the seller contributing to your USDA could work for you as well. So if you lived in a USDA area, there's no down payment, right? And you can use that 3.5% for your closing costs if the seller does not contribute. So a combination of all of those things should get you where you need to be. Hopefully, I don't know if you have a very big family, but you can. 3 bedroom, 2 bath was like the standard for most homes, because that was like the standard. Now the standard is getting to these 4 bedroom houses, but I'm just going to say this. I don't know how many children you have. Everybody doesn't need to have their own room. So I've said this before, I shared a room with my sister. I'm the youngest of 4 girls, and 2 of us were in one room, 2 of us were in the other room. When my mom moved to Atlanta, we moved to an apartment at first. She bought a 2-bedroom apartment. I shared that bedroom with my sister. When my mom bought her first house in Georgia, she bought a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and I finally got my own room. And I think I was 14. So I don't, like I said, you could have 7 children and maybe that doesn't work the same. But I know, a lot of times we get very stuck on what you need, and it may not be that, especially as a single parent. I'm thinking more, okay, what can I provide my children with, right? But not be so tight that if something happens, I'm not able to cover it. So I'm on the line of not pushing for a more expensive house and maybe seeing if a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, more affordable house could work for me. but I did do a video with my sister, and it's about buying a house as a single parent. Watch that video. She did down payment assistance for her first house, and she kind of talked about some of those things in that video. And any of the videos that I'm talking about, you guys, just go ahead and I don't think you can do this as easily on your phone, but if you're ever on a desktop, you can search very easily through videos. And everything else I have organized in a playlist, and that can help you find them as well. Amanda, are hard credit pulls the same? Is a pull for a mortgage the same as a credit card pull? No. Good question. No, no, no. And watch my video with Kevin because we talk about hard credit pulls. So the first myth of a hard credit pull for a mortgage is that it's going to be very significant. So the amount of the impact, the average impact of a hard credit pull to your FICO score is between 0 and 5 points, 0 to 5 points. And the way the credit score model works for car loans and for mortgages is that they give you, in most cases, there's different models. They give you between 14 days and 30 days to quote with multiple people. So it only impacts you one time. That 0 to 5 point impact only happens once. So if you between 14 and 30 days maximum, some are 14 days, some are 30 days. So I tell everybody just do 14 days. If in a 14-day window, you do 3 mortgage applications, it only impacts your credit one time, okay? And that's the same thing with car loans. They know it makes sense for you to rate shop, right? Rate shop for the best fees, all of that. So your credit is only going to be impacted once. Now, would a lender tell you that? No. If you go to the lender, I don't want them to pull my credit. I don't want another hard credit pull. Yeah, don't get another hard credit pull, right? And even I go to my first time home buyer group. I had a client, like my own client, that did 6 applications. I didn't tell him to do that, but he did 6 applications. He chose his 4th lender, and he did them over a wider period of time. I think it was about probably 2 months, 3 months or so, because he was still shopping for his house. And he picked the 4th person, and he was able to compare all of them. He said the 4th lender gave him the best rate, the best fees, the best everything. And his credit was impacted more, but I forgot what he says, 12 points overall. I forgot whatever it was. He was in the 700s. And honestly, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the same rate if you have a 705 or if you have a 715. They're going to give you, because they have ranges of credit. Okay. So they don't say, well, at 701, your interest rate is going to be this. And at 702, your interest rate is going to be this. They have ranges like 720 to 740, get this. 620 to 660, get this. So those little changes of your credit are not impactful at all. What's more impactful is the interest rate. So if you go with one lender, right, and that one lender is like, okay, I'm going to offer you a 6.85%, and you never quote with anybody else because you're scared of the hard credit pull. What if that other lender could have given you a 6.5? That is the impact you should be worried about. You shouldn't be worried about the 2 points on your credit, because the 2 points of your credit didn't cost you any money. The not getting another quote cost you money. And so watch that video. It's called why waiting to get approved can hurt you. We did it last February. So watch, if you scroll down under my lives, you can find that one. But yeah, watch that video. Don't worry about hard credit pulls. Thank you. I'm going to get some water. I'll pull up the next question. Okay, what do you think about these lease purchase companies while getting ready to get a home? No, I don't like them. I did a video about this already. It's called, are they a smart thing or a scam? So watch that video. I did it about the lease purchase companies. Now, the reason why I don't like them is because the reason why people are doing them is 1 or 2 reasons. They don't have the down payment saved yet, and so they go ahead and lease purchase, or their credit is not good, and so they go ahead and lease purchase. But a lot of times they're locking you in that house at a specific price, okay, of that house, and they're locking you in as far as how much money you have to pay them. And I think it's something that if you discipline yourself, just do it yourself. Because a lot of people, what winds up happening is they get into this house, they rent it for 2 years, and then they figure out they don't want to live there anymore. And then there's a problem with getting out of it. So definitely read the fine print, know what you're doing, and the rent is at market rent. So your market rent plus whatever you have to put aside for your down payment. And I think if you're going to wait 2 years to buy anyway, then go ahead and buy. Prices aren't going crazy as far as going up as quickly as they were before. So watch that video that I did on lease purchasing companies and what they're doing. I'm not saying that they're scams. I just don't think it's the smartest way. Like, if you know, most people can fix their credit within a year or 2 years anyway. And then most people can save or get down payment assistance for their purchase. So I just think it's a smarter thing, instead of, buying with the lease purchase, paying all their fees, being locked into a price, all of that, then start working on some of the things that are stopping you from buying, outright independently on your own. But I kind of explain it better, like all of the points in that video. So I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan either. So just not a fan. Kevin, if Kevin's still on, this is a good question. Kevin's still on. Please answer this in the comments. How long does it take for money to become seasoned? Because I want to say 60 days. At the most, it's 90 days. So what he means by seasoned is when you've done a loan application and you're trying to close on that property, they're going to look at your bank statements. And typically they only want 60 days of bank statements. So that's why I'm pretty sure it's 60 days. But if there are any lenders in the comments, you can correct me. So season means, at what point do they stop looking? So will they look at, deposits that people made to you 6 months ago? No. So they typically look within that 60-day window of any large deposits that you get in your account that cannot be attributed from your income, that did not come from you, from your retirement accounts, from your savings, from your paycheck, because they want to make sure, as part of the guidelines of getting a mortgage, they want to make sure you're using your own money, because they're trying to avoid you borrowing money for your down payment, borrowing money for your closing costs. Because if you borrow, say that you have a cousin and you're buying a house, you don't have a down payment, and you ask your cousin Billy, lend me $50,000 so I can buy this house. And Billy says, okay, I'll lend you the $50,000, but I'm gonna charge you 10% interest, and you have to pay me $1,000 a month for the next whatever months. That's something that's not going to show up on your credit, right? And so lenders are going to be mindful of, okay, where did you get this 50? But Billy goes ahead and deposits that $50,000 into your account. And so now you have the money to buy the house. So the lender's going to say, where'd you get this $50,000 from? And you're going to I got it from Billy. Well, did you borrow it from Billy, or did he give it to you? They're going to have all of those conversations about that money, because if you borrowed it from Billy, now that debt that you have needs to show up on your debt to income ratio, right? So they don't like to see deposits from other people, because in their mind, that's a loan that you have to pay back. And if you have to pay back a loan, maybe you can't pay your mortgage. But say Billy gave you $50,000 a year ago, then they're not going to usually look at that. They usually look at the last 60 days. And once you're under contract, or you're about to close, then they'll look at the 60 days that you did your application. Say it's 30 days later, they'll look at that. They're going to look at your accounts as long as you've been with them, right? So, and maybe Kevin answered. If he did answer, maybe the moderator can pull it up. But 60 days, I'm going to hold form of that 60 days. All right. Thank you for that question, half and half. So no large deposits in your account. Okay. Hello, I'm looking to buy on Social Security. Is it possible? Yes. And I've done a video about this, so search for that. I talked about buying a house on Social Security. It is possible, but you have to, it doesn't take a lot to get approved for a house. So say your Social Security is $1,500 a month, okay? Let's say, and you're I want to get approved for that. So and you have good credit. Say you have your credit score as a 650, and you make $1,500 a month, and you have no debt. Okay, let's say all of those things. You go and you do your mortgage application, and they're you're approved for $90,000. And then you're well, the average house in my area is $200,000. So it's not that you cannot buy a house, is that can you afford a house? That's the big problem with Social Security being your only income, is that the average Social Security is not that much money, typically. So it's not that you cannot get a house or be approved for a mortgage, is it's really the affordability piece of it, because they're not going to give you a house if you let me make it easy math for me. If your Social Security is $1,000 and you have no other debt, they're not going to let you have a mortgage of more than, say, $450, at the maximum $500. And there's a little bit more because they don't count as much tax. They might give you a little bit more than that $1,000. But say the highest mortgage they're going to allow you to get is for 450. How many houses can you find that the mortgage is not only going to be 450? So affordability is usually the issue with just having Social Security as your only income, because you have to be able to afford where you're living. So I always tell people, Social Security, is there anybody else that can buy this house with you? So say you and your spouse are on Social Security. You might be able to get it together. If you have children, maybe it's like a multi-generational thing, y'all can buy. So the income does count, but can you afford the average house? All right, no pressure loan officer, I think, is helping us out. He said with the 401k, he says you need the 401k statement, you need the 401k withdrawal statement, you need the rules for withdrawal, and you need proof it was deposited into your account. So that's that question about that the young lady had about using her 401k money to buy her house. So thank you so much, no pressure loan officer. I appreciate that. I like your name too. All right, Nisi D. We just had a 401k question. We should have no pressure. If you're still on here, answer this question too. I took a 401k hardship for my down payment. And because it was for a down, okay, sorry. So she's helping you answer this question as well. I took a 401k hardship for my down payment. And because it was for a down payment, I did incur penalties. Okay. I don't know if you meant I did not or I did. She said she did incur penalties. So find out if anybody's thinking about using your 401k or your Roth. I know Roth has, you can use it. The money you've deposited, you can use without penalty. But if you're thinking about using any of your retirement accounts to purchase your home, just make sure you're aware of what that's going to do. The penalty, it's not ideal, right? It's not the ideal thing you need to do, because if it's not in your retirement account, it's not growing and getting you that compound interest and the money. But I know a lot of people did it, especially over the pandemic, because the penalties were removed, or a lot of the penalties were removed at that time. Thank you, Nisi, for helping with that question. I appreciate it. All right, while Nisi is doing this, while we're pulling up our next question, I want to, because Nisi already has a house, I want to talk to all of you about refinancing, right? I did a video probably at some point this year. I did a video called When It Makes Sense to Refinance. If you already have a house and your interest rate is higher than 6.5%, right? And you're thinking, well, interest rates are going down. I want to refinance. I would say make sure you're doing that math. You know your break-even point, and every time you have to refinance is going to cost you. So you don't want to go ahead and refinance, say that you're like all excited. Say you got 8%, like you closed when rates were super high, you have 8%. And you're like, it may make sense for you to refinance now at 6.5% or so, right? But say interest rates go down to 5.5% in March. Are you going to refinance again? So if you could just refinance once and not have to refinance again and again, it's probably going to make more sense. So if you're somebody that knows, you're planning on refinancing when rates get to a certain amount, just know how much they cost, know when it makes sense for you, and know when your break-even point. At what point do you break even on that refinance? And I have a video explaining that. All right. Thank you, Nisi. All right, while we're pulling up the next question, Valencia says, my condo is being built and the finish date is April in Williamson County, Tennessee. All right, it's only $250,000, one bedroom, and I'm paying cash. I'm 56. I have no debt. You're doing well, Valencia. I'm 56. I have no debt. Do you think it is wise to pay cash? HOA is $93 a month. That's a low HOA. So first, I want you to watch my condo beware video. Hopefully, you watched that already. So it really depends on when you're paying cash for something. Of course, you're taking that money. You don't have access to that money. It's not going to be liquid, right? So if you needed money to cover something, you can't just go ahead and sell your condo and get that. So I think overall, if you have the rest of your finances handled, like you said, you have no debt. Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have all of those things? Particularly your emergency fund. And probably, I don't know if you're retiring or if you're still working. You're probably still working. You're pretty young. I would just make sure that you have some other money that is liquid that you have access to. Maybe 12 months, on the conservative side, 3 to 6 months, maybe 12 months. If you weren't able, I don't want you to get to a position where you have to sell your house in order sell or take a HELOC or home equity loan on your house because you need cash. So I think it's fine to pay cash. A lot of people are doing this, especially with the high interest rates. But make sure you have some liquid money as well. So you can handle the rest of your expenses. And then watch my video about condo beware, because one of the things, I don't know if I guess it's a new condo, so you may not have all of these issues, but that HOA fee at $93 probably over time is going to increase. So you just want to kind of think about that ahead of time. But congratulations. All right, good questions. We're almost at 8 o'clock and we have 262 people. So please take a moment, like and subscribe. Again, this is my last live for 2023. I'm going to see you again in 2024. Those of you that are buying, you already bought. We're going to do wealth weekends in 2024 to get you ready. Not just, buying a house is one of the 12 things I want you to focus on, but it's not everything. We want to be, financially stable in every area of our lives. So I'll be doing that in 2024 as well. All right, CC, what if you buy down your interest rate to 6.2% and then the interest rate went down before closing? Can you redo the buy down and buy down from the now lower interest rate? This is a great question. I'm writing down if I need to do a video about it. I'm gonna do another video about buy downs and all of that. Okay. And this is maybe. It depends on your lender. What did your lender discuss with you? The rate changing, are all these rates locked, right? So you have to have a conversation with your lender now, right? Because I'm assuming you haven't closed yet. But this is a very, very good question. One that I haven't really thought about. So we need to have the mortgage company, not the mortgage, I've got his name. It's a very nice name, the lender. I'm going to say maybe. Honestly, I'm not sure. I know that they do have the option for floating down your rate. But some lenders will charge you for that. And I don't know if you have the option. My thought is that because you haven't closed yet, you may still have that option, but some lenders require you to pay for that up front for the lower rate, that sort of thing. So I'm going to hold because I don't honestly know the answer to that. And I don't know if it varies by lender. So I'm having a conversation with my lender like ASAP if this, about this question specifically, and I'm going to find out for myself. So go ahead and, maybe one of the lenders that we have on in the chat will answer this for you because I'm not sure. But this is a conversation I'm going to my lender and I'm asking as soon as possible. What she's saying is when you buy down your rate, typically when you buy down your rate, you're not actually paying for it. It's just in your closing costs. So I wouldn't think that you couldn't still use that money and then float down the par rate or float down the other rate. Even if you are already locked in, either going to pay to unlock it and go down, or you're just going to go to another lender and get the lower rate and then buy it down. If you have enough time, that's what I would do. So let me recap my answer, make sure I'm clear. I would say talk to your lender, but you should be able to float down that rate. And then if you want to pay down some more, you could, or you could still switch lenders, get a lower rate and then buy it down if that first lender doesn't allow you to do it, or if they're trying to charge you too much money to do it. Okay. Thank you, Miss Hayes. I appreciate it. Yes, give me a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe if you aren't subscribed yet. I would appreciate it. But I do want, I'm thinking about it now because I know some people who had extended rate locks, they had to pay for those. So I was mixing that up before. But because you haven't paid for that lock yet, you should be able to. I'm still on that first question. You should be able to float down that rate with the first lender. And if they are not willing to do it for you, that's when you go to lender number 2 and ask them what they can do for you. All right, let's try to get a few more questions here as quickly as possible because we're close to 8 o'clock. I'm gonna answer 5 more questions. And again, thank you guys for being here. Watch my video on the top things you need to do for 2024. While my moderator is pulling up the other questions, I'm going to go ahead and post, if y'all don't have it already, this is the link to my masterclass. And then she's looking for, make sure I have a good question because she's looking for it. All right, these are going to be my last 5 questions. Okay, so the first one of the 5. I thought about NFCU. I don't know what that stands for, but I guess it's Navy Federal. I guess Navy Federal Credit Union, but heard of the denials for African Americans. I think, unfortunately, I don't think the denials are any different from any other lender. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, African, for various reasons, African American have mortgage denials more than others. So I'm not sure if you're asking a question, but this is why I think Kevin and I talked about this, about when I put all of my my home buying for, especially for African Americans, we have a unique experience with real estate in the United States, right? So I put all of those, anything that's touching on that. I have a playlist. I think it's called African American Real Estate Playlist. I have a playlist for that, and I put all of those videos in there. And it's just not unique to Navy Federal. So if you want to do Navy Federal as one of your 3 lenders that you quote with, then you should. I'm not saying, because no lender's hand is clean as far as bias, right? Bias or discrimination, all of that. You'll find more of that than you probably would believe. But one of the ways that you can avoid that as much as possible is by doing those 3 quotes. So you're not just beholden to one lender that might have bias in their systems, right? So I'm not going to count this as a question, but I want you to just make sure you're doing 3 quotes and make that a standard procedure. So you have less of a chance of that happening to you. Okay. Good question. So question number 1, let's put it up. All right, Marissa, I want to do a VA loan and make triple enough. All right, triple. Credit score is not good, but I'm working on it and need to sell current home. Any lenders you can refer me to in order to secure the loan? No, there are probably lenders in the chat though. I try not to refer, and I'm talking about Kevin a lot because Kevin and I did that video together that's pretty popular on my channel, and he's in the chat. So you can try with Kevin, but in general, I don't recommend. I'll do interviews with specific lenders, but I want you as first-time home buyers to feel confident to say, okay, I can quote with Kevin and I could quote with someone else and I could determine what's best for me. Okay. I really want you to not be afraid of doing that. So that's why I don't really recommend, I say, everybody use this lender, or I do, things like everybody go to this bank, because you have to just financially and for your own, everybody's a little bit different. I want you to say, okay, I'm going to quote with this person. I'm going to quote with this person, and I'm going to see which one is best for me. So there's no lenders. I'm going to say, because Kevin's in the comments, he may be able to help you. And he probably, one of the things that a lender can help you with too is, what exactly do you need to clean up on your credit? You make enough money So you should make enough money. Hopefully, say you make triple. So to clean up some of those things, maybe you settle some of those things and agree for them to get off of your credit report, that sort of thing. So that's my answer to that. Go ahead and get 2 quotes and have the lenders, because the lenders have access. They're pulling your credit. They have access to your whole entire credit report. They have simulators that tell you if this person does this, this, and this, they'll have enough credit to qualify. And for VA, there's no minimum credit score. The lender might have a minimum credit score, but VA doesn't have a minimum credit score. So you may be able to find a lender that can work with the credit score that you have, or just get it slightly higher enough for you to qualify. All right, Beverly J, how are you? Once your home is paid off, how much will it affect your credit score? I think this is going to vary for everybody. It may not, but it could be 10 points, 20 points. And this is why. And this is if you pay off any debt, any major debt where it changes your credit mix, right? So if you pay off your car, your credit is probably going to go down because now you don't have a car on your credit mix. When you pay off your student loan, your credit mix is going to change. However, it usually rebounds pretty quickly because it'll rebalance out and that credit mix may not matter as much. The only debt that I have is my mortgage. Is my mortgage, and I have some credit cards. I don't have student loans because I told you I got them paid off, and then I don't have any car loans. So, but at one point I did have a car loan. At one point I did have I did have student loans. So I have 4 things like credit mixes on my credit, but my credit goes between, I would say 830. The highest I've ever had is 847. And I don't have the credit mix that I used to have. Now, when my student loans got paid off, it might have went down 5.7 points, but it pretty much went back up. And once you get above a certain amount, once you get above 800, everybody's giving you the same interest rates anyway. So if you're hesitating paying off your house because of the impact to your credit, I wouldn't hesitate. Go ahead and pay off your house. Good question. All right, 4 more questions. 4 more. And thank you for the 268 people that are on with us now. Go ahead and hit that like button. Okay, next year, my husband and I want to buy a house. So, hey, 2024, make sure you get my masterclass. My husband said he wants a brand new build because it's easier with a VA loan. Can you explain why it's easier, please? Or is it really easier? I'll tell you why I think he thinks it's easier. Okay, so VA loans, the same way every loan, they're going to send out an appraiser. They're going to send out an appraiser to that house, and that appraiser also kind of does a mini inspection to make sure it is safe and sanitary, what they call safe and sanitary. That's basically livable. It has heat, it has air, the plumbing works. There are no like dangerous, like if you have a deck, the deck isn't like creaky or the steps aren't falling apart, right? So they're going to make sure that that house is inhabitable for the buyer. So with a new construction home, everything's new. So they probably are not going to have any problems with that house. But if you're buying something that might be a fixer upper or something like that, then they may have a problem. But if you're buying a house that's if you're buying a resale house that is in pretty good condition, it's just the same. You want to avoid getting fixer uppers or homes that need a lot of repairs. So that's why he's saying we won't have any problems. It's easier to get new construction, but it's just as easy to buy a resale that's in good condition, right? You just don't want something that, there's holes, not holes, but the windows are broken. It's dangerous. The heat doesn't work. The stove doesn't work, stuff like that. But if you're buying, a resale that's in good condition, it'll be just as easy with a VA loan. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. That wouldn't be unless I was trying to buy a fixer upper, which clearly he's not. He's not trying to buy a fixer upper if he wants a new construction, but it'll be the same. It'll be just as easy. Let me say that, to get a resale home that's in reasonably good condition as it will be to get a new construction home with a VA loan. All right. Good question though, Sharon. And thank your husband for his service, or you for your service. Whoever served, if you both served, thank both of you. All right. That's 2 more questions. Hopefully I'm counting right. 2 more questions. And thank you again for joining me tonight. Do lenders run your credit when you get quotes? Yes, they do. Most of them do. I've seen lately that, like, I feel like Rocket Mortgage says it won't impact your credit. So some of them may be doing soft credit pulls, but that's not a real pre-approval if they're just doing a soft credit pull. But like I said to the earlier viewer, the impact is 0 to 5 points, not each time, one time. So yes, they run your credit typically. And if you do them within that 30-day window, right, then it's not going to have any impact to your credit other than that one time, which is going to impact you anyway. So please, please, please do not worry about that. Take that out of your mind. Worry more about the interest rate and the fees you're paying than getting multiple quotes on your house and your credit score impact, because it's minimal. It's maximum. It's a lot higher. The impact is way higher if you only get one quote, right? Potentially, than if you get multiple quotes and impact to your credit. So definitely watch that video that I'm talking about. And I'll make sure in the replay, those of you that are watching the replay, that video is in the description of this video, because a lot of the questions that people are asking, they need to watch that video. Sabine, are you my last question? I think you are. Which one is the best family house or a 2-story house to help you to pay your mortgage? My question is, are you going to get qualified because of income? I'm going to try to understand what your question is. So I think you're talking about multifamily versus single family. So I have a video about, are you a single family fool, like buying a single family versus a multifamily? So this is for everybody. If your pre-approval is just as easy for you to get pre-approved to buy a single family home as it is for you to buy a multifamily home, right? It's the same pre-approval as long as you're buying less than 4 units. So you could buy a duplex, you can buy a triplex, you could buy a fourplex. It's the same type of pre-qualification, same type of application, okay? As long as you plan on living in at least one of those units for a year, okay? Because you're going to own or occupy that house. Let's talk about it from an FHA perspective, but you can do it for conventional as well. So for FHA, if I'm going to buy a single family home, then say it's $100,000, my down payment is $3,500, $3,500. If I'm going to buy a duplex, and say that duplex is $200,000, my down payment is still 3.5%. Now it's $7,000, but I have to live on one side of that duplex because they want to avoid people just doing this as investors. Okay. But you move on to one side of that duplex and then you rent out the other side. And that other person, that renter, helps you pay your mortgage. Okay. You also can buy a triplex, right? $300,000 and on from there, right? The thing, she's asking, I think, is, you're in your mind, you're like, I can qualify for something $100,000. But say the duplex, well, let's go to the triplex. Say the triplex is $300,000. Can I qualify for that on my same income? And usually, yes. And this is why the lender, when they're pre-qualifying you for the triplex, they're going to say, okay, you'll be getting income from 2 of those units. Say each person is going to pay you $1,000. Then they're going to count that, some of it, 75% of it, they're going to count that towards your income. So they're going to say, okay, instead of you making $5,000 a month, you're going to be making $5,750 a month or $6,500 a month. They're going to put that rental income onto your salary or your regular income, and then you'll typically qualify for more. So just know that and this is not possible everywhere. Like Atlanta or Georgia doesn't have as many multifamily opportunities, but this is more common in more populated areas that have less land. So building multifamily properties, say in New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, California, was probably much more popular because they had so many people coming to live there. So this is an option for some of you. So you could ask your lender, if I want to buy a duplex, and they may have to vary depending on, where this duplex is, how much the rents are, that sort of thing. How much would I qualify for. So I'm answering your question. I'm not saying it's, and in the video that I do, the video is called, Are You a Single Family Fool? Should you buy a multifamily house as a first-time home buyer? I go over the pros and the cons of buying a multifamily house as a first-time home buyer. Okay. So please watch that video, because it's not as easy as, and a lot of, people on social media are saying, buy multifamily. You're basically starting a business where you're, now you have renters, and now you have all of those things. If they don't pay their rent, then can you cover that? All of those things you need to think about ahead of time and prepare, as somebody in a business would prepare for those things happening. So you don't just need an emergency fund for yourself. You need an emergency fund for your business, some reserves. If your renters don't pay, you're still able to cover that mortgage, because that mortgage is going to cost you more. All right. Shout out to Kevin, who stayed with us until 8:13. Hopefully he was answering some of those questions I could not answer. He says, Cece, I may be able to help you get a better rate. So y'all reach out to Kevin. Kevin, I think when you click on somebody's picture, you can go to their channel, but Kevin's channel is The People's Lender. He's a great agent, very helpful, explains things very well. So I really appreciate him. Make sure you're picking up my masterclass and Confidently Closed Handbook. So you'll be invited to my, exclusive webinars and everything that I'm going to offer in 2024. You guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, everything else before the end of the year, and Happy New Year. But I'll see you in the new year with my first live of 2024. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you guys.